It's Friday, December 20th, 2024. Welcome to episode 133 of the Alameda Postcast, an audio service of the Alameda Post. I'm your host, Scott Peeler. In this edition of the Postcast, the City Council swears in new members. The Planning Board reviews plans for Radium and Wind River. The King Tide impacts Alameda. Honors for a pair of local authors. San Francisco Bay Ferry notches another first. The latest real estate sales. Will we see cannabis cafes? Almanac revives an old favorite for a great cause, and still some holiday events to be had. These stories and more on this episode of the Alameda Postcast. Our top story. On Tuesday, the City Council met for their final meeting of 2024. In that meeting, outgoing members Trish Herrera Spencer and Malia Vela were honored for their years of service. Herrera Spencer, who lost her bid for re-election, was praised by City Auditor Kevin Kearney for, quote, standing up on her own when she felt she was right without the backing of any particular group, end quote. Former councilmember Jim Odie expressed appreciation for working with her on environmental issues, such as the Alameda Disposable Food Service Ware Reduction Law. In her closing statement, Herrera Spencer expressed gratitude to her supporters and everyone who has participated in the community, whether by attending a council meeting or writing a letter, and cited her support of the establishment of Gene Sweeney Park, the naming of Svensson Maritime Park, protecting Corica Park, championing the Friends of the Alameda Animal Shelter, and supporting cannabis dispensaries in Alameda as among the highlights of her tenure. Malia Vela reached the end of her term limit this year, having served on the council from 2016 until 2024. From 2020 to 2022, she held the title of vice mayor. During her time on the council, Ms. Vela gave birth to her two children, making her the first council member to become a mother while in office. Now you know one of the big reasons city buildings have diaper changing and lactation stations. In 2021, she collaborated with the mayor to instigate a reworking of APD's response to 911 calls, which laid the foundation for the CARE team. In 2022, she helped bring the RENT program into the city attorney's office, resulting in a hearing officer model of resolving landlord-tenant disputes. Vela acknowledged the support of her family, fondly recalling her father's presence at her swearing-in, her sister canvassing with her, and how her grandmother used to sit through city council meetings. Later in the meeting, Alameda County Superior Court Judge Noel Wise swore in newly elected council members Michelle Pryor and Greg Bowler. As the top vote-getter, Ms. Pryor was nominated as vice mayor by current title holder Tony Desog. The motion passed unanimously. Also sworn in, City Auditor Kevin Kearney and City Treasurer Kevin Kennedy, both of whom ran unopposed for their offices. Full details in Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. A day earlier, the Planning Board held public workshops to review the updated plans for the Radium Theater Performing Arts Center and a proposed 120,000 square foot three-story life science building on the Wind River campus. Since the initial workshop in June, a joint subcommittee of the Historical Advisory Board and the Planning Board has met 3 times to refine the plan for the Radium Center, addressing issues such as the building's location and plaza details. Based on feedback received, the theater building has shifted west, creating a larger public plaza framed by the theater and Naval Air Museum, while preserving a 40-foot view corridor along the center line of the museum and a 60 to 80-foot view corridor to the west. The design aims to integrate ecological and community influences with flexible outdoor event spaces, emphasizing connections to the waterfront and historic elements. To access the site from West Tower Avenue, the plan anticipates a new north-south roadway between Building 40 and Building 41. The plan also shows a public 169-space parking lot on the taxiway west of the theater. Staff anticipates returning before the board in February or March for final plan approval. Also on the agenda, a new 3-story life science building at the southeast corner of Wind River campus at 200 Wind River Way, proposed by Blue Rise Ventures. The campus was originally approved as a 5-building campus in 1997, but only 4 were built. The new 120,000 square foot building will accommodate approximately 300 employees. If that seems low, it's because laboratory workers take up more space than office workers. Public commenters supported the development for community benefits, but expressed concern about Blue Rise Ventures' commitment to maintaining the Bay Trail and Wind River Park, which they said were neglected. Dan Paritsky, managing partner of Blue Rise Ventures, said that when Blue Ventures learned they weren't adhering to Bay Conservation and Development Commission requirements, they began improvements, and although they haven't completed all the required work, they have allocated the budget to do so and selected contractors. He anticipates the work will begin when there is sufficient dry weather. Also on Monday, the board reviewed multiple adaptation plans designed to address sea level rise and its impact on the estuary, Bay Farm Island, and the surrounding area. This work is being shepherded by the Oakland Alameda Adaptation Committee. The sub-regional action plan is required by state law and is targeted for completion in 2034. For a full look at the scope of these projects, including maps, artist renditions, and diagrams, see Karen Jensen's article at alamedapost.com/news. This past weekend, we all learned a bit more about king tides, the high tides that occur when the moon, earth, and sun are aligned just right to exert maximum pull on the ocean level. Combined with a weekend storm, much of the perimeter of Alameda and Bay Farm took quite a beating. The city actually took steps to mitigate the expected damage by lowering the lagoons, clearing storm inlets, checking storm pump stations and backup generators, supplying the self-serve sandbag station, and removing leaves and debris from the street. Portions of Shoreline Trail on Bay Farm Island were closed to the public. Several trees fell due to high winds, including one that caused a power outage on the west end. If you were in or around the center of the island during the worst of it, was a great illustration of our discussion of emergency protocols in last week's episode. While the shoreline was swamped, life around the area of Central and Grand went on pretty much as usual. That's what 33 feet above sea level gets you when you live on a mostly flat island. For a look at the city's preparations, as well as a link to forward-looking workshops to deal with sea level rise, see Kelsey Gore's article at alamedapost.com/news. One disturbing result of the severe weather, a graphic reminder of the pollution lurking in our waters. Richard Bangert has done an excellent job illustrating just how insidious contamination from things like styrofoam can be. The familiar packing peanuts degrade into near impossible to clean pellets that float on the surface and then work their way into the soil and sand. Take a look at just how much of this washed up this past weekend with Richard's article at alamedapost.com/op-ed. By the way, if you think you really need packing peanuts, look for the biodegradable cornstarch-based ones. They're essentially unflavored cheese puffs, albeit not made to food-grade standards. Non-toxic, and they safely dissolve in water or your mouth. Don't do that, and don't ask how I know that. If you're looking for tips on how to keep your holidays a little more environmentally friendly, we've got you covered. Joyce Mercado has your guide to a sustainable holiday season with tips like eco-friendly wrapping paper, reusable gift bags, and loans of reusable place settings courtesy of Alameda Natural Grocery. Details on these tips and more at alamedapost.com/features. Congratulations to local authors and Alameda Post family members Karen Jensen and Julia Park Tracy. They both made the 2024 Top 100 Indie Books list from Kirkus Reviews. Karen Jensen, who Postcast listeners will know for her impeccable coverage of city council meetings, made the list for The Strength of Water, her family memoir that we first discussed here back in episode 51. Julia Park Tracy, former Post board member, was honored for the second year in a row, this time for her historical fiction novel Silence, set in colonial Massachusetts. Get to know the authors and their works thanks to Kelsey Gore's article at alamedapost.com/features. For quite some time now, we've been reporting on the San Francisco Bay Ferry's REEF program, Rapid Electric Emission-Free Ferry. SF Bay Ferry already boasts the cleanest ferry fleet in the nation. It's about to get even better with the authorized purchase of 3 battery-electric, zero-emission, high-speed passenger ferries from All American Marine in Bellingham, Washington. Look for the first of those vehicles to join the fleet in 2027. Details at alamedapost.com/news. Real estate market continues to show some signs of settling in a bit here in Alameda. The median sale price for the past couple of weeks remains around $1.1 million, but the frantic bidding wars of recent past seem to be less common, with more than a few properties actually closing below listing price. Liz Rush shares the particulars of recent sales at alamedapost.com/features. Cannabis cafes, you could see them soon. Starting January 1st, California AB 1775 becomes law, which allows cannabis lounges to sell food and drinks that aren't prepackaged. After opposition from the American Heart and Lung Association and Governor Newsom's veto of a similar bill in 2022, AB 1775 includes additional protections for workers against secondhand smoke. Cal Matters covers this, as well as Senate Bill 969, which will let local governments designate entertainment zones where bars and restaurants can sell alcoholic beverages for people to drink on public streets and sidewalks. Details at alamedapost.com/news. Kudos to Almanac Beer Company. They are reintroducing one of my all-time favorite beers, Crispy Girl Pilsner, and they've once again paired with the nonprofit group Punks with Lunch to benefit their outreach efforts. Bring a donation of feminine hygiene or other personal care items to receive a 20% discount off your first taproom purchase. The release party is today, Friday. Thank you to all who have donated to our end-of-the-year fundraising drive. We've achieved a number of milestones. Still time to get your donation in. Visit omela.com/Alameda Post to give now. That's OMELLA.com/Alameda Post. If you're looking for activities this weekend and beyond, head over to 94501.info. A quick note, the farmers market will be closed the next 2 Tuesdays, December 24th and 31st, but will be open on Saturdays as usual. I know we've all been dealing with a lack of daylight, but starting early Saturday morning, things are looking brighter, literally. Winter solstice is early Saturday a.m., and the days finally start getting longer. Don't forget, you can find us on all the usual social media outlets. We've also added ourselves onto Nextdoor and Blue Sky. Find the Postcast wherever you get your podcasts, or simply tell your smart device to play the Alameda Postcast podcast. I'm Scott Peeler, back next Friday with episode 134 of the Alameda Postcast.